quick. But
Ian Trutchia here for Discussions of Truth. This is day 3 of the Reawaken Tour stop in San Antonio. I have with me 2 gentlemen. One you're familiar with, the other one you're not. And so introducing to you, Dr. Arian Williams is here to my left, but introducing to you Jacob Wells. Jacob, welcome to Discussions of Truth. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Ian, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad to talk to you and your audience. And Aaron, it's going to be a good discussion.
So, folks, look, Jacob, we have a pressing time here in a world of developing world of censorship. Part of that big tech tyranny also means your financial censorship and financial manipulation as this digital financing grows. Jacob, you brought to the market, if you will, in that market, a new product.
Yeah.
What is that?
So, probably about 13 years ago, I was sitting down with some family members. I happen to be part of a large family. I have 11 siblings, 6 boys and 6 girls, really big family. And many of my siblings were in ministry. They were pastors, missionaries, just engaging the world, helping bring hope to people that were hopeless. And we saw so many people beginning to use a platform called GoFundMe. Many of you are probably familiar with GoFundMe. It's now a large platform, kind of synonymous with crowdfunding in many ways. And we saw that platform really becoming a household name, and with so many people that we knew were using it. And we looked at it, and I've always had this. I gotten out of the Navy a couple years prior. I was a cryptologist and was doing real estate stuff, and just had an entrepreneurial bug, figuring out, God, what do you want from me? You know, where are you leading me in life? And got in this conversation with a couple siblings about the need for a platform that's bigger than just bringing money to material solutions, because that's what GoFundMe was doing, and they were doing it well. It's just like, let's help people with their material issues that they have, and let's create a way for them to be able to raise money for those things. But we recognize as Christians that every material problem has an immaterial reality associated with it. And how you deal with immaterial realities is not with money, it's with the hope of Jesus. And so we said there's something bigger here that needs to be created, something better than just a platform that helps people raise money, but also a platform that delivers the hope that heals the brokenness in those immaterial situations that are connected to our material realities. And so we started on this journey in 2014, 2015, building out a platform to compete in that marketplace of crowdfunding with the intent of, our tagline is sharing the hope of Jesus through crowdfunding. And so we built out this platform, GiveSendGo.com. In that 2014, 2015, we rolled out an official launch at the end of 2015. And we just began to move it forward. My sister and I, there's 3 of us initially, 3 siblings. One early on couldn't continue in the journey just because of life circumstances. And so my sister Heather and I walked this out over the next 4 or 5 years, just the slow growth of building a business, an entrepreneurial endeavor. We bootstrapped it. We're independent. We're free from any venture chains, any people's claws dictating how we ought to operate, which is necessary in many ways for companies to actually continue to live in a freedom model. Because once you get money invested in your company, oftentimes there's strings attached with that. And so we built it, we grew it, expanded into countries all over the world. And then something really interesting happened in 2020, a little over a year ago, and is now back in the limelight in our culture here in the U.S., is a young man named Kyle Rittenhouse, had been deplatformed, had found himself in a situation because of unrest in our country, and he was deplatformed everywhere from fundraising and just having a voice contrary to the narrative that was being pushed by Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all of the big tech platforms. And he came to our platform, GiveSendGo.com, and he set up a campaign after it had been shut down on every other place. And we said, well, listen, we live in America. I'm a military veteran. I recognize that our freedom that we have in this country was paid for with a very high price. It was paid for by the blood of men and women that laid down their lives so that we could live in freedom. And part of that freedom is, in the American system, is that we are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, not public opinion. I don't know the facts. I mean, I can see clips here and there, but the courtroom is the best place for this stuff to be adjudicated. And so we said, man, he deserves due process. It's in our Constitution. We need to walk this thing out. We need to let him have this moment. And so he used our platform successfully, raised hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for his legal defense. And we're beginning to see, now that this is back in the limelight of the social sphere, that it looks like we're gonna be able to point back to all of these big tech companies and give them the "I told you so." Look at what you did, and look at what your policies actually harmed. And so the journey's been seeing this platform come out. GiveSendGo has stood in opposition to this totalitarian, authoritarian, in many ways fascist left that is intolerant of anything, of any idea that's different than their own. And GiveSendGo has said, listen, we're going to be a platform of freedom. We're going to share the hope of Jesus, who gave us freedom first. In Galatians 5:1, it says, it is for freedom that Christ has come to set you free. John 1 says, John 8, if the Son has set you free, you are free indeed. Everything around the hope of Jesus is freedom. Our platform exists for freedom. And so we let our platform open to everybody. It's not just for Christians. It's open for everybody to come use the platform. And it's blown up now. It's being used all over the world. We're in 40 countries, twice as many as GoFundMe. GoFundMe is only in 19. GiveSendGo's in 40, and continuing to expand. And we're just seeing some amazing things happen. So I'm, glad to be here, glad to tell you people about this, talk with you guys about it. It's great.
So I've got Dr. Aaron, and Aaron. Aaron had turned me on to GiveSendGo. Aaron, why don't you please explain your association with GiveSendGo?
Yeah. So I had seen them come up. I think it was around the fall, and I may have actually been donating to Kyle Rittenhouse's campaign as well. I had actually seen the clips that didn't make their way into the mainstream, of a sweet kid who came there, and he knew that there had been a bunch of unrest in the city where I live, in Minneapolis. I live nearby. I wasn't personally affected, but other than how we're all affected in that instance. But I saw a sweet kid there. You're listening to him talk, and he's there with a medic kit. He's hoping that there's no trouble, but he's coming to try to help defend businesses from being, ravaged and wrecked. And this kid gets in the middle of this situation, and I felt for him afterwards too, especially when I saw it. And I don't know all the facts. I can't say that, he did or didn't act in self-defense based on what we can see from afar, but I said, he deserves his shot in court, like you're talking about, Jacob. And so I had given some money to his campaign as well, and I didn't know such a thing was possible, and I believe that was one of the campaigns that were refunded to me, and it kind of came back, and I got an email. I said, well, what's this? How does that work? And I said, wow, the censorship literally is everywhere, including that monetary domain. And at that point, somewhere along the way, I did find GiveSendGo, and I said, well, thank the Lord that really we have now a Christian-based platform that is out there. And as you were referring to earlier, and I didn't know the background on your company, but that this company is not serving a corporate interest. It has no corporate masters. It has no puppeteers. They're literally serving God and the people. And that's it. And it's just been amazing. And so many different things I've been able to donate through there. And I feel comfortable and confident giving, knowing that I'm not going to get a refund email in a few days and wonder how we're going to be able to help these people that are being, thrown out on the streets, out of their jobs, and all the different ways that the tyranny and the, all this unfairness is happening all across the nation. And now I have that confidence. I'm like, go into GiveSendGo, and then you're there. And with Ian, specifically, I had went onto his website some time back and said, hey, I'm going to support my brother in Christ and help him in his mission as he's been helping me. And so I go on there, and I go on to GoFundMe, and I just can't get it to go through. I try like 9 times. I check my connections.
The link you clicked on the site?
Yeah, on your site, Ian. I clicked on it many times over, and I'm like, wait, this isn't operating normally. So I tried something different. I realized that, no, it was just the site. And I looked back, and it had been many months since Ian had a donation listed on there. And I said, I reached out to you. I said, hey, I think your GoFundMe is not working. I think they cut you off a while ago. And, let me tell you about this other platform called GiveSendGo. He's like, GiveSend what? I'm like, GiveSendGo. I think I sent you the link if I recall. And, then you actually get into this Christian-based, patriotic, people who care about everybody. We care about the left, we care about the middle, we care about the right. It doesn't matter. We're all children of God. And know that the donations that people are trying to support you with are going to get to you, and they're going to stay with you, and they're also going to help support GiveSendGo's mission. It's amazing. It's incredible. I was so glad to also have met you here as well, Jacob. It's phenomenal what you guys are doing, both of you.
Yeah, awesome, man. What a great story.
Aaron, thanks for that. And Jacob, tell listeners why. What's the main difference here with your platform versus GoFundMe? And like, there's some other platforms outside of GoFundMe, aren't there? There's
a couple. Yeah, there's not many. I mean, actually, GoFundMe as challengers, crowdfunding came on the scene over the past decade, and there were a bunch of people that started to solidify in the space, and GoFundMe just bought them out. So one by one, they bought them out. So it's been the marketplace has really been reduced. GiveSendGo is like one of the last remaining standing crowdfunding platforms. We'll never sell out to GoFundMe. You can have my word on that. We just never.
But maybe Facebook.
Yeah, right. Will not happen. Will not happen.
Oh, excuse me, Meta.
Yes, Meta. Exactly right. But there are several differences. I was interviewed for, I think, Newsmax a couple of weeks ago, and they were putting a clip together. Someone had been deplatformed on GoFundMe, switched over to GiveSendGo. They wanted to get our take on the whole thing, and asked me a whole bunch of questions, and out of everything, what aired was one small clip of what I had said, but that one small clip was, why are people using your platform? And my response right off the cuff was, well, because we're better. That's why. And that's what they cut out of all the other things that I had said. They cut that. I was like, oh, well, that's perfect because we are better. But some of the differences are that we do tap into that that immaterial aspect. Money does meet people's material needs, and we give them as many tools as we can, and we're developing that even more so. We've got cryptocurrency about to be launched on our platform, first crowdfunding platform to do this. More ways for people to give, get outside of the traditional legacy rail payment systems. But one of the ways in thinking in the process, you go to a GoFundMe page and it's going to say, donate now and share now is our main two buttons. GiveSendGo has a third button. It's the Pray Now button. And
I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, and it's incredible. I mean, people don't realize the power of that extra button and what it does. Well, first off, I mean, just from a functional standpoint, it allows people that may not have the resources to give at a moment to give something, in my opinion, even greater, which is words of life to somebody.
Spiritual.
Yeah, encouragement. And so right now we have Project Veritas exclusively using our platform.
No kidding.
For all
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for all of their whistleblowers. And I had a conversation with the Facebook whistleblower a couple months back, Morgan Common, who whistleblowed about Facebook's vaccine hesitancy score on people and all of that stuff. And he was a very successful fundraising campaign. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I had a conversation with him, and he said, you know what, Jacob, in this journey where you're taking a risk, you're stepping out, whistleblowing against a big company like this, there's a lot of uncertainty. And money kind of deals with some level of that, but it doesn't deal with the emotional roller coaster of, man, what did I just put myself into? Like, am I going to even be able to find another job? Like, all of these things, and you're going on this roller coaster ride. He said, I will tell you, as much as the money that was raised has been great, he said, when I come home and I'm feeling like, man, the world is upside down for me, he said, I open my GiveSendGo campaign, I go to that prayer messaging side of the site, and I begin to read the thousands and thousands of messages of prayer. The Bible says that there's life and death in the words that we say. And he had a message board inside of his campaign with thousands and thousands of messages of life to him, and it inspired him and would bring him out of that despair, that despondency, that downcastness that happens to all of us. As we run through life is carries all of those different things. And he said, I would take those messages over the money. This is what he literally told me. And I think that's something that I don't want to downplay, because it is so true. That when you can get that community around you, it gives you life. And I'm going to share an example of how this actually played out. And it's a horrific example, but it actually steeled GiveSendGo in our mission. So when Kyle Rittenhouse came on the scene and we allowed his campaign to have a space on GiveSendGo, there was another young man. You might know of him. I don't know. His name was Jake Gardner. You might be familiar with his story. So about 2 years prior to Kyle Rittenhouse, shortly after the whole George Floyd incident, and there was a lot of unrest in cities all across the country, this military veteran, Jake Gardner, lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and he owned a bar. He was an honorably discharged Marine, military veteran.
I've heard this, yeah.
And he had found himself in a difficult situation. There's rioters coming down the street. They come down the street that his bar is on. They bash in his window. He thinks it's a gunshot. He's military, served tours in Iraq, Afghanistan. Thinks it's a gunshot, pulls the fire alarm, gets everybody out of his bar, goes outside, and what ensues is a altercation with these Antifa, BLM marchers rioting and looting, and it's all on videotape. And they begin to agitate the situation, and he shows them that he's carrying. And listen, guys, move on, leave us alone, go. And they wanted to continue to stir things up, and they eventually attack him. It's all on video. They jump on him, they take him to the ground, and they're going after him. And one of these agitators comes up behind him when he's on the ground and starts choking him from behind. Gets like a rear naked choke on him. And he's left with very few options at that moment, but he has his gun and he pulls it out and he shoots the guy on his back. It's all on videotape. The police, obviously, they show up. Prosecution looks at the evidence and says, hey, you know what? This is a pretty clear-cut self-defense. I mean, they're attacking him. He's not attacking them. He's walking backwards. They're jumping on him. But because of the politicization, the pressure of that moment, the district attorney's office, we can't just let this go. It fit the narrative too well. This, white Marine veteran and this black, agitator. We gotta run this. We gotta take this to a grand jury to look at. Well, this Marine veteran, Jake Gardner, he was shut off from any method of support. He didn't know about GiveSendGo. This was 2 months before Kyle. And so he was literally outcast. Facebook shut him down. Twitter shut him down. YouTube shut him down. GoFundMe shut him down. Fundly shut him down. Every crowdfunding. He couldn't find an option. And he was getting death threats. He fled his home state. He had nowhere to go, nobody to connect with, nobody to get support from. Where there were many people, just like Kyle, that would have supported him in his fight for getting his side of the story out, or at least getting him to a place of being able to carry out, a legal defense for himself. Well, fast forward now, his whole situation has happened. He's kind of in hiding on the run. Kyle has his campaign on GiveSendGo, and Jake Gardner says, oh my goodness, here's a platform that might allow me to have a campaign. And so he sets up a campaign on GiveSendGo. All of a sudden we start getting all this, hey, take this down, all these emails coming in. And we're
From where?
From people wherever, rallying, because there's just people out there, and they don't want anything to be said that opposes their narrative. And what we did find, this is kind of a side story, a lot of those emails, what we found were just bots. They weren't actually real people. When we went to respond, because we love to respond to people, even people we don't agree with, and we share the hope of Jesus with them, we found that they were fake emails. It's just a bunch of college kids sitting in a room.
The McChrystal Group, perhaps?
Yeah, making it seem like there's an overwhelming support for what they're doing. It's much smaller than that. Anyways, so Jake Gardner sets up this campaign on GiveSendGo. But Kyle Rittenhouse was the news story of the day. Jake Gardner was, the news cycle moves so quickly. His story was 2 months old. People aren't paying attention. So he's not really getting the attention that his campaign would have gotten if he had been allowed months earlier. And so he's only has his campaign for a brief moment, probably 24, 48 hours. And in that time frame, you could see his desperation and his isolation. In his campaign page, he's actually giving out his personal cell phone number. He's saying, guys, reach out to me. Like, I'm desperate, I'm lonely, I'm afraid, I've been cut off, and thank you so much for whomever's out there supporting me. But it wasn't receiving the support. Well, right after he set up that campaign, the grand jury comes back and says, there's enough here, we're going to take this to trial. Mm-hmm. And because, and you know what his response was? He committed suicide. Jake Gardner killed himself. An honorably serving veteran of our armed forces killed himself because Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, GoFundMe, Fundly, these woke, crazy companies, his blood is on their hand. They shut him off from any ounce of ability to have support. And he felt so destitute and alone that he killed himself. And it was at that moment, we saw that happen, we said, never again, never again. GiveSendGo is going to fight for the voiceless. We're going to give a voice to the voiceless. And we've stood on that, and we have fought hard. We've built out our development team. We've put defensive measures in place. I mean, we've had attacks from every front. Denial of service attacks, people trying to take our platform down, people trying to deplatform us, big tech trying to shut us down, all the different things. And because we've got a huge backer, and it's the man upstairs who's helping give us strength to walk this out, we've been able to continue to move this thing forward. But never again are we going to allow a situation like that. There's going to be a place at GiveSendGo for people to be able to share the word about who they are and what place that they found, no matter what their background or their past is. Jesus came for the hopeless. He actually said to the religious people of the day, he said, it's not the healthy people that need a doctor, it's the sick people that need a doctor. That's who I came for. He was known as the friend of sinners. He came to give people that had messed up baggage and history and turmoil in their lives, and he came to give them a hope and a future. And so with GiveSendGo, that's what we do. So that's a long story about kind of who we are and what we're standing for, and the Pray Now button. I mean, that's where we actually talked to Kyle's team, and those messages of hope that he got when he was actually in jail at that initial time before he was bailed out. He said, those messages kept me going. Like, that Pray Now button, you're not going to get that on GoFundMe. You're not going to get a Pray Now button on GoFundMe or anywhere else. And we took it one step further. COVID happened, pushed people into isolation. We said, God, what do you want us to do we don't just want to say that we're a Christian company. We want to actually live this out. How can we live this out better? And so we came up with this idea of, we're going to hire a prayer team. So our first team on GiveSendGo was a prayer team. We're going to pay you to call every single campaign owner and pray with them about what they're going through. And so we have every campaign that comes on, they get a phone call from GiveSendGo, from someone on our prayer team, and they just say, hey, we're here, we want to pray with you, we've read your campaign, we know what you're going through, let's just pray with you. And that's just taken the whole thing one step forward. The testimonies that we've seen out of that have been absolutely, I mean, literally one of our prayer team members called a lady a month or so ago, and she literally had just pulled out, this is the timing of gun, she had literally just pulled out a gun to commit suicide, and our prayer team member called her right at that moment. It just happened to be, this is God's timing and everything, and she's like messaging the team, guys, start praying, there's a serious moment happening right now. And she was able to talk that lady through that moment, get her help, connect with her the next day, follow up, and give her some hope in the midst of a very difficult situation that she was going through. But God's orchestrating some amazing, amazing things. And like I said, GiveSendGo is not just for Christians. We actually had an atheist that one of our prayer team members called the other day, and he's like, "Listen, I don't believe all that stuff," and we're like, "That's fine. You don't have to. We just want to pray for you, can we?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And after she prayed, he's like, "Wow, this is different than other Christians that I met. There's something really interesting. I felt that in a very different way." And the prayer team member said, "Well, is there anything else that I can be praying for you for? I mean, we prayed about your campaign, and is there anything else?" And you could hear him start to choke up a little bit. And he said, I'm really having some issues in my family, and I'm separated from my family, and the relationship is broken down, and this is really hard on me because I love my family, and this is a difficult moment." And so she just jumped into praying with him about this situation, and you could hear him start to sob on the phone. A guy that has no faith in God, and he could feel the tangible presence of what God was doing in that moment through our prayer team. And so we say prayer changes things. It does. It's making a difference. You will never find things like this on GoFundMe, Facebook, anything like that. And we're excited. I mean, because GiveSendGo, God's doing a work through this platform, and He's changing it, and we're gaining momentum, we're gaining strength, we're using that strength to solidify our place to be even stronger than we've ever been, so that we can create our own financial infrastructures, so that we can bring hope to the hopeless, that we can provide for needs. I mean, it's just an exciting journey.
Beautiful, Jacob. Now, Aaron, you've spoken about having experienced a refund. I believe from a campaign or an organization you had gotten involved with and donated to. I wanted to thread that back into Jacob and how you have fought this big tech incursion, Jacob, but in regards to their defunding folks, and I know you had brought up an example here with a former presidential campaigner or organizer. But Aaron, if you would for a moment discuss this experience, and then Jacob, you can tie into that. Discuss this experience, Aaron, with this with being refunded.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're looking to help and you realize there's so many things wrong with the world, and you know that God's presence is needed, that the support is needed across a great many people who are trying to fight for others, even the people who are fighting against them. You want to reach out and try to help as well as we can, because we can't always help nearby these people that are far away. So when you get on there and you know that you can go donate, you think you can go donate on something like GoFundMe, and you say, okay, well, I can go help. So you go do that. And the moment you get those back, that feeling is maybe not hopelessness, but it's at least something approaching it. And you just go, wow, they're everywhere. How can I help these people who really need it? I feel bad not being able to help. I can't imagine, I can't fathom how they feel being cut off and destitute. Yeah. As the Marine you were talking about, and it's just such a tragic story. And, for a little while there, I did not know where to go. And I wanted to help. I wanted to help so bad, like from what I can do.
You lost trust
I lost trust in it for sure. And you lose a lot of hope, and you say, gosh, where does this end? And then all of a sudden, somebody comes up with a campaign and says, hey, go to this GiveSendGo. What's that? And you go on there, and even just going on their website, and you look at the campaign, you see how everything's set up, and you just feel the presence of God just by the mission and what you're doing. Well before I had the pleasure of meeting you here, and it was phenomenal. At that point, you get so much more hope. You say, now we're going to be connected. Now all these children of God can try to help each other even from far away. Yeah. And I wasn't aware that the Pray Now button also, you were able to comment and send them messages. I thought it was kind of more like a like button. So now knowing that and hearing that story is just even more fantastic, that I want to get on there, and I'm excited to go in there and do that as well. But that's one of those things that really gives a lot of hope, not just to the people who have been oppressed and wronged, or maybe they just haven't had their day in court. We don't know. Yeah. That's what the courts, as you said, are for. Yep. But we want to support their ability to fight for their rights and for their own trials or whatever it is, or their tragedy that happened in their family. Yeah. And that also gives all the people on the other end, this website and what you're doing and your mission gives us hope too, that we can all work together and support these other people. So I can't compliment you guys enough. I think it's just absolutely amazing.
So Jacob, to insert, if you would, this element of a former presidential campaigner that got involved in your program.
Yeah, there was a back at the end of 2020 election time frame. There was a lot of questions arising from people about how that election went down, and so there was a man named Matt Brainerd who had worked on President Trump's campaign as a data guy, running the numbers in 2016, and he set up a GoFundMe campaign right after the election. So there's a lot of anomalies happening in some of this stuff. We need to take a look at it. And he started to raise money in GoFundMe. GoFundMe shut it down right away. And he started trying to figure out, okay, well, where the heck can I go? Like, what can we do? And he was told about GiveSendGo. And so he came on, and his campaign took off, raised, I think, close to $750,000, and funded his ability to look into, really dig into, buy some of these lists that were needed to be able to see and unravel some of the election mysteries that were going on. And he did some great work in that. He's continuing to do some great work, taking that money, making it useful, and so we gave that opportunity for him because truth is found through an investigation. This is even a biblical principle. The Bible says that if you search for God, which is an investigatory, endeavor, if you search for God, that's when you find him. We kind of, the big tech authoritarian government mindsets are trying to say there should be no investigation. We just tell you what it is. And it's not hard to recognize that the human condition not only is broken, but our abilities are also very small. Like, I am not omniscient. There are massive gaps in my ability to know. I forget more things on a daily basis than I learn. Like, this is just the reality of humans. And so when you've got these groups that want to portray themselves as having such a corner on the market of truth, it's just fallacious. It's absolutely nonsense, because this process of coming to truth should never stop being challenged and investigated. And that's why, we look at, election integrity things or things of that nature, and we say, hey, more power to you. Dig into this stuff. If vaccines, dig into this stuff. We need to be looking into this stuff. This is the scientific method, is to hypothesize things and then to challenge the narrative and to break things apart. And now we're being told you can't even do that. It's fascinating. But so Matt Brainerd had this campaign. It was hugely successful, and we were happy to be a part of allowing that look. And for anybody who's walking out in this moment wanting to challenge the status quo, we're happy to help, because we need to be challenging. This is the only way that we find truth. We refine ourselves in the process of what truth is. It's such an important thing to not be so one-sided in our approach, and that's exactly what they're trying to do right now, is a completely one-sided approach and not be challenged, and it's a terrible place to be. And so we're bringing balance back to this spectrum so that we can actually continue to move the conversation forward appropriately, with balance, with a proper approach.
Something blew me away last night, Aaron, and it was I can't remember. Maybe it was the Uber driver that had mentioned something about his mother or wife having to take mandatory classes about not being so white. Do you remember this comment?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I believe he said that she worked for CVS, and that CVS even was going through this training for people to teach them to hate themselves, to be divided, to divide us into false dichotomies, all children of God, but yet we're supposed to be black and white and oppressed and oppressor. All of their social engineering techniques that, they've studied for well over 100 years, back from the days of Edward Bernays and even long before him, Gustave Le Bon. Many of them, they've studied this for well over 100 years for a purpose. And, as you're so well describing, now they have the means also to reach out. With all the technological age that we're in, there's a phone in hand, there's always some medium by which they can get to us to try to divide us out, to get us into that molded way of thinking that they know results in ultimately their control over the people. Not God's control, not even their own personal individual control for those who don't believe, but their control. And the more that, you know, shows like yours, in platforms like yours, Jacob, are bringing this out there, the more we can continue to disseminate information and bring it down. And even within medicine, I always, you know, when I used to have residents and work in academics, I used to tell them, and this was no knock on them, you know, ignorance and stupidity are two different things. Ignorance is nothing to be scoffed at or a negative unless you are willfully ignorant on purpose. And I say, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So you just have to keep reading. No matter how long I work with you over a 2 or 3 year period, I'm not going to be able to impart all the knowledge. You always have to keep looking. You will never know. And the same thing goes for our society. And if we're going to live in, you know, if we're going to improve our society, we first start with God. We start with prayer. We start within family. We start with community. And we look for information. And we spend our time looking for truth, searching for it, and then spreading it out. And that's how we can kind of dismantle this matrix that you guys are describing so well. And get back to real, true scientific discussion, which also leads back to God, as we've had some conversations off the air about. And we actually can build this society better, and not just in the interests of 6 companies controlling 90% of our media, or whatever you want to look at, banks and all these other things that are controlling ultimately a lot of what we see. They're controlling the GoFundMes and telling them what can and can't be allowed. And we actually improve the society, and it does start with information. We have to move a little bit away from all the bread and circus, as they said in Roman times. The quote from whichever emperor said, "Give them bread and circus, they will never revolt." And it's time for people to reprioritize what's going on in life. If you don't know something is wrong right now, well, you're not being honest. Everybody can feel it, and it's time to get these sources of information and support these patriots.
Jacob, for listeners, take a few moments, if you will, as we wind down. And gentlemen, thank you for your gracious presence and time. And tell listeners a little bit about your platform and how it's engineered to fight and defend yourself from these attacks from big tech. And how listeners can feel comfortable about integrating themselves and their work into GiveSendGo.
Well, first, you know, it's
mechanically speaking. If you
So we built the platform from scratch. So this is not a WordPress site. This is not some like plug and play type of thing. This is millions of lines of code built from the ground up, and so there's a lot of intentionality in that. It's a system that we're, you know, some of the process of developing a platform is implementing lessons learned. And so over this past year of the attacks is what you find out, okay, this is how they're attacking, this is how we defend against it. And so we put some of those things in place, like character limitations and, you know, just some base level things. But even from our privacy policy, GiveSendGo has a monetization method in our platform. So we have no desire and no need to do anything with anybody's information other than allowing campaign owners access to their givers who have given to their campaign. So your information on GiveSendGo will never be sold. It will never be transferred. It will never be given to a third party. We just don't do that. There's no need for us to do that. We're not reliant on advertisers that can say, oh, we're going to pull this, you know, these advertising methods, so you're going to lose your funding. It's like, no, sorry, we have our own funding vehicle built within GiveSendGo and how it works. So your information is safe with us. We are not selling it. We're not using it. We're not doing anything like that. The platform itself, as far as continuing to fight against big tech and the attack against us, is, you know, we've hired on just in the past couple of weeks 3 new DevOps developers whose whole goal is to build out new server systems independent of big tech, our own, that we have ourselves, to be impenetrable to being deplatformed. You know, you're not going to take us down. We're going to stand independent of this. So we're building the backbone infrastructures for all of this stuff. And it's a work in progress, and it's happening. It's happening faster as the site grows because we're more resourced to make it happen faster. We're taking everything that we got and we're throwing it back in. This is going to be something that is going to be really strong and available for generations to come. We're thinking through new technologies, new ways to allow payments to move more efficiently, more, say, cheaply at a lower cost. I mean, there's some great technologies coming out in the payment space and integration models that we're working with that lower the cost of what it costs to transfer a payment, and moving away from even some of the legacy payment systems like MasterCard and Visa, and finding independent methods from bank-to-bank transfers and things where the cost is so much lower. Because we want to drive that cost down even further. Right now there is a payment processing fee that's standard, and we want to challenge what that is, that industry standard, and drive it lower. And that's what innovation does. That's what technology allows us to do. Our team is great at that. So we're thinking through all of these different things. There's a lot of sides to all of this. So there's a lot of things that we're juggling in it. But first and foremost, like I said, we protect our people as best as we can. I'm obviously constant attacks against the platform, constant looks at trying to hack in and break it. And thankfully, we've had a great team that's on top. We got scans constantly happening. We hire third-party auditors, security auditors, to come in, look at the platform, look for vulnerabilities. I mean, we're doing everything that we can to prevent anything from happening. And so we're doing the best that we can, that we have, and our commitment is to. For everyone listening that's thinking about GiveSendGo at some point in the future, our commitment is to have the best platform, the safest platform for people to be able to give, far out of the reach of big tech and their desire to know who's giving to what. And I was like, no, sorry, you're not getting that information here. So.
Jacob, where are you located geographically, and tell listeners who are some of you mentioned Project Veritas and Kyle Rittenhouse?
Rittenhouse, yeah.
Who are some of the other companies or folks that are using your platform? Where are you located?
Yeah, so I currently reside up in New England, in Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And my co-founder, my sister, she's down on the eastern shore of Maryland. So we have teams that have coalesced around where we are. Because it's an online platform, we have a lot of remote workers. So people can kind of work from anywhere. We've got people throughout the United States working for GiveSendGo. Technology is great. It allows us to chat, to get on video calls, to do remote work very easily. And we also have teams around the world. We actually have 8 employees around the world in various locations, developers in various functions working for GiveSendGo, on GiveSendGo. So that's that picture of GiveSendGo. And then the other part of the question was who's using GiveSendGo. It was great to actually start engaging with Project Veritas. I think the work that they're doing is instrumental for exposing some of all that's happening in the world and the behind the scenes.
Biden's daughter's journal, diary. No, maybe that's a joke.
Yeah, right. It's insane. James is a great friend, and I love what he's doing. Happy to be a part. And we literally are seeing new organizations on a daily basis, PACT, Parents Against Critical Race Theory, which started out of the Loudon thing in Virginia with the parents pushing back against the school board and everything that they were doing. They got deplatformed from GoFundMe, came to GiveSendGo, blew past all their GoFundMe goals, and now are setting up a national organization to help parents across the country kind of take control of their school boards and bring some common sense back. So there's organizations all over. There's pilot organizations that are pushing back against the vaccine mandates. There's doctors organizations. I mean, there's organizations everywhere that are coming forward and now using our platform.
40 countries.
Yeah, 40 countries, and it's not just in the U.S. Yeah, Canada, we've got people doing the same thing in Canada and Australia. I mean, you see some crazy stuff happening in Australia and in the U.K., and people are beginning to hear about GiveSendGo and starting to say, oh my goodness, here's somebody that's going to allow us to actually raise some money to push back against these things, because you need the money to challenge these oftentimes. And so, it's fascinating. It's really cool to see the influence that's growing here.
Yeah, and I was just going to say something as well, that, what you're creating effectively is what some people, within the movement of trying to bring truth to people. It's not a right or left thing, we know that, but trying to bring truth. They're talking about, we need to build a parallel society that isn't without all of those controls. And one of the things you said really spoke to me, and I think is important to point out to people. You said, they blew past all of their goals that they had. And that's just further evidence. They make us feel that there's an illusion, that we're isolated, we're alone, there's no one who thinks like us, or who critically thinks, or who challenges their narrative. But it's out there and exists. And once you tap into avenues outside the system parallel to it, like GiveSendGo, you find out truly how much support and how much stronger you and we are than they ever let on to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, it's incredible. And I love also, that just as a, whether you get metaphysical or not, I love that GiveSendGo's connections are much closer connected to God, almost literally and figuratively, than you are to any big tech handlers whatsoever. And I just love that.
Yeah. It's been a great conversation. I'm so thankful that you had me on, Ian and Aaron, just talking to you over this weekend. It's been fantastic. I appreciate getting to know you guys, and appreciate the work that you're doing yourselves, and just continuing to press in, continue to press into what you have in front of you. And, we're here on the journey with you.
Aaron, I gave both the gentlemen here a moment to leave you with some final words and final thoughts. Aaron, what do you want listeners to walk away with in regards to GiveSendGo in your experience? And you're the one that got me involved with them. So what would you like listeners to walk away with here?
Absolutely. And I think, tying into some of those former comments, looking for information, looking outside the narrative for more information, you find just incredible gifts like GiveSendGo. Get out there and find this information, and also you're finding hope. You're finding so many things. You're finding that power of prayer behind it. You're finding all of these things that is just absolutely incredible. And I have so much more hope now, so much enthusiasm for being able to actually build this parallel society and this movement, knowing with full confidence that GiveSendGo is going to make it happen. And it's fantastic. So I just want to thank you guys again.
Jacob, those are some pretty nice words there coming from anesthesiologist Dr. Aaron Williams. Jacob, some final words for listeners. What would you like listeners to walk away with here?
Listen,
do not go to GoFundMe. Yes, Stop now.
we say go fund ... someone else on GiveSendGo.com. I think, the writing's on the wall for that company. It really is. They're
crash and burn, baby.
It is. It's going to be a crash and burn. Just in the name, GoFundMe, it plays into the narcissism of the American society in many ways itself, and it's a devolving, hopeless, platform. GiveSendGo. So it's givers, senders, goers, impacting the world. It's not about any one thing. It's connecting the body to do amazing things. And I will say, we can and could not have done this without people like you guys. And so everyone that's listening, I know many of you have probably even seen GiveSendGo, and you've supported us in the journey. And I want to say, from the bottom of our heart here at GiveSendGo, thank you. Thank you so much. This is just beginning. You just wait. It's just beginning.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah.